Thanks for coming, Adam. Absolutely amazing to have you on the podcast. The first bit from me, really, is before we talk about anything to do with data or anything like that, it's just to kind of understand a little bit of how you have come to sit in the chair, kind of what the tapestry of life has been to get here, I guess, from my perspective.
Okay, yeah. So I think in my teens, was playing football at a football club. So I kind of got here by chance and hard work and everything else. So once I realised I wasn't going to be playing football for the rest of my life, I got into sales with a company, a telecoms company, doing desk-based account management. Really loved it, loved the role, but I wanted to do more, and there wasn't opportunities there. So went on a bit of a job search and come across a company that was in telematics, and so started there on telesales. So which was interesting.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, $100 a day, booking appointments for salespeople.
Oh, I can think of anything worse.
Having all sorts on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
I was that guy phoning you basically. So did that. Progressed through there a bit. So I decided I wanted to get out on the road, wanted to be a salesperson out on the road, and so followed that path through and worked for a couple of other companies in telematics during that time. And over that year, I just found a real passion for kind of helping fleets. Really kind of being able to understand their challenges, their problems, and then finding the solution to help them with those. So yeah, that's kind of the last 18 years-ish summarised. But yeah, I would like to say a bit of a fluke, but there was some hard work along the way as well.
Would you? So obviously you're now at Geotab.
Yes.
And at the time this goes out, it will be that obviously known that we're in partnership, which is absolutely fantastic. We have a long-standing partnership with Geotab as a global entity with our US colleagues, etc.
Yeah.
What is it about Geotab that sets them apart as not just another black box, for want of a better phrase?
Okay, yeah, I think for me, and I can only talk about my own personal experience. So, like I just said, I'd been in the telematics industry for a number of years. Worked for a couple of companies, great companies. I really enjoyed it. And then I guess I've been at Geotab for almost 6 years now. So roughly 7 years ago, I kind of felt that it was become a bit of a race to the bottom. Shifting boxes.
Yeah.
People were pretty much doing the same sort of thing. And so I actually decided to come out the industry in terms of telematics and go into a completely different role, still within fleet, still helping fleets. And I'm sure there'll be a few giggles at people that watch this because I joined them and they were a Geotab reseller, which for me, I didn't know who Geotab were.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a competitor that I'd come across in my previous work at the time, although they'd landed in Europe and landed in the UK at that point. It was still early days for Geotab in Europe at that point.
Yeah.
And so I said, oh, right, well, what's this? And I come in as the telematics expert in this company to kind of help drive, their solution services. And I just started to really understand what Geotab was. Their approach was completely different. I think you touched on that black box that gets fitted to a vehicle. Typically in telematics, that's what people have done over the years with GPS in there, and it'll calculate distance travelled based on GPS logs and things like that. Whereas at Geotab, the focus is connecting to the vehicle, because ultimately that's where all the data is. And so taking that data from the vehicle and then providing insights on the other end to the end customer.
Yeah.
That's the real value. And so I think just real simple things. The analogy I always use, if you're sat in your own personal vehicle right now, you can, on your dashboard, you can see your odometer, your fuel level, state of charge now for EVs.
Yeah.
Is there a fault light on, service light on? What speed are you doing? All these bits. And for telematics over the years, this is kind of data they've had to relied on GPS to sort of calculate, and algorithms in the background working out calculations based on distance. And so for me, their approach was completely different. It was taking all of that data from the vehicle itself, putting it up in the cloud, and then saying, right, what data you need, who needs to see it, and when. And it just blew me away. And I thought, I need to go and work for that company. So,
yeah. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, like, we talk about it, and, you've been in the industry long enough to know that data and big data, one of the many buzzwords we've had,
Yes.
but kind of that big data, and we sit in that play that as a kind of an amalgamator of data to create insight is probably where the importance
Yes.
is more, because you can get so inundated with the levels of information. I don't know how many lines of data a telematics is doing every minute, every hour
Yeah.
per car. You multiply that up into fleets and it's just incomprehensible, I guess. And then additional to SMR data and all the other data that generally comes across.
Well, yeah, that's it. I think so. Take it back a few steps. I think collecting data is one thing, but you have to do something productive with it. So the data's the information,
Yeah.
and it's figuring out what's important in that information. That's step one. And so we can do a lot of that in the cloud, and there's clever technology in the background that does that. But then it's also important understanding, well, what's the problem the customer wants to solve, and also within a business. So your own business, there'll be the service maintenance repair, say, division.
Yeah.
Maybe a risk team, maybe the account managers who want to get information to understand their client's account. So everyone's got a slightly different role when it comes to looking at that data. And so I think it's about building or ensuring that the right people get the right data, and it has to be insightful. You know, if you've got to sit there and interpret the data yourself, figure it out, work it out,
Yeah.
then that's time that a lot of fleet operators don't have.
Yeah.
What they need is take that data from them, gather the information, and then inform them of the bits of information they need to complete their job role effectively, or to solve that problem they've got.
That can make a difference.
Yeah, hugely. Yeah.
So do you think over, let's say, the last 6 years, 5 years, whatever it may be, do you think the requirement has changed? And if you could pin it, is there a reason why you think that is?
Yeah, I think each market's slightly different. I think what's driven a lot of the change, I would say, in Europe and specifically the UK, is that there's this drive for decarbonisation, sustainability, and that's had a domino effect. So, interestingly, if we go back pre-COVID, of all the vehicles we connected to globally, we could see that the average time someone was keeping a vehicle back then was 3.8 years, right?
Right.
And then it peaked at somewhere like 8 years over COVID, and now it's settled down just below 7 years. So if you think about that, people are starting the decarbonisation journey. They're trying to transition their fleet to EVs, which is a journey in itself. It's not an overnight, particularly for larger fleets. And so a lot of people, because the next purchase, they want it to be an EV, they're keeping their existing fleet longer. And so the domino effect of that is now, well, actually, if we're keeping the vehicle beyond 4 or 5 years, things start to go wrong on vehicles, that things need changing, breakdowns, predictive maintenance, that sort of thing. So I think it's all of that combined. We're seeing, fleets now are keeping vehicles longer. They want to make sure that vehicle's kept on the road, and to do that, rather than waiting for the driver to inform you that something's not quite right in the vehicle, can you get that data from the vehicle? Can you predict when maintenance is going to be due on the vehicle? And interestingly, to just streamline that whole process, plan ahead. And that solves that problem. And of course, the vehicle's then safer. It's more economical. So that's decarbonisation in itself.
Yeah.
And then I guess the tools beyond that is going through that whole journey of transitioning to EV and decarbonisation. It for me that is a process that every business has to go to, and again, it's data-driven insights. The mantra at Geotab is managed by measurement, and that's true to the word. You have to have good, reliable data to make those informed decisions, and that's kind of our approach to telematics.
I think it's a fair assessment. You look at it from a consumer behaviour perspective. Like us as people, we want the exception. We want the insight in everything we do. Yeah. Even if you looked at it from a health bit, we want to, have I done better? Like if you put it as its simplest form, can I run a mile quicker than I could before?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's all this clever stuff that enables you to put it. And then and we're hopeful, and would definitely see this, is that the partnership that we've gone into, that's been very successful in our North America for a long time, is what we're going to capitalise, is doing that and actually adding a level of data and insight, But ultimately, all of this sits around is the people behind it, right? You've had a journey.
Yes.
You've had your tapestry of life has been a particular way, and you've done lots of things. You talked about the way you were playing footy and then figured out, well, it's not going to be my journey, so I need to figure out a new one.
Yeah.
There's lots of people, especially in Fleet, that didn't go to uni to be in Fleet. It just happens to be part of their responsibility. And then surely as part of that is it's kind of on us to support them to achieve their objectives.
Absolutely. I think on that side, you speak to numerous Fleet people at events and other things like that, and you know they've ran the Fleet in a particular way and gained experience over, you know, their whole career, 10, 20, 30 years plus, and now you're introducing this new tech, this new challenge, because it goes beyond just finding the right vehicle that's right, say on the EV transition. Now you've got to understand, right, how do you charge it? Where do you charge it? How do you balance that against workload?
Yeah.
Can the person charge it at home if they don't leave the vehicle at a depot at night, for example? What if that person's in a flat or an apartment or a terraced house? And so all these things come across, and there's one of the main utility companies in the UK. We've been through this journey over 3 years with them, and that was they've set a goal, and the goal was to be fully EV by 2030 as a fleet, and that was a real kind of challenge that they've thrown down there. And what they quickly realised after doing about 30% of the fleet was 70% of their engineers were those people that lived in inner cities, lived in flats, apartments. So now you've got the challenge, right? Even though there's a vehicle that is the right fit, if they can't charge overnight, how do they charge and where?
Yeah.
And coming back to that data piece, that's one of the things that, you know, we threw down the challenges, like how can we help solve that, understanding where the vehicles are going, what sites they're visiting, where do you need to put the charging infrastructure? Because now if we can get more of this 70% across because they're attending a depot for 2 hours a day, which gives them an opportunity to charge.
Yeah.
And again, that was all data driven, and you don't get that, I guess, unless you're gathering right information about lots of different elements, the vehicles, the person, their habits, the workload, and this is all of that data combined. I think that's the difference. Going back to your question earlier on, telematics before, dot on the map, showing you some driving data.
Yeah.
Now it's about collecting lots of different elements, not just from the vehicle, but on the person, on the business, on the workflow, and combining all of that and then getting the insights from all of that data. I think that's the new market when it comes to connected fleets.
And I think the most successful ones are ones that people are taking on a journey with them, right? Rather than, right, okay, here's an EV van as an example. And we all do it because ultimately, and from a marketing lens, how I look at it is we all purchase the same way, be that business or our own personal life. We buy with emotion and we justify with logic.
Yes.
Right? I could go into a conversation that I had with you, but we won't do that one. But it's that piece of you go and tell someone that they've got to drive a van. They'll find all the reasons in the world that they can't do it.
Yeah.
But if you actually then look at how does that make them feel? What would it do? How can we do it? How can we support them through it? Is there a benefit to them? What's the mindset that you have to go into? I did a blog on LinkedIn talking about how we'll get there EV eventually. I was driving a car. I drove from Chippenham all the way up to Edinburgh. Hadn't planned it. EV, first really long journey. And I found that actually you slow, you don't take the journey as quick. I can only talk for myself, but an ETA on a sat nav was a challenge. It wasn't, I will beat that.
Yes.
But now it's kind of like, okay, I need to get to a particular place. I charge a particular amount. I don't need to sit at the charger for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because I only charge what I need to charge as long as I've got destination charging. So there's a lot of unknowns in the sustainability change, and there's a lot of change of tech. And the great bit, I guess, from our perspective and what this kind of partnership looks like is there is so much data out there, and it's so easy to go big data is the answer. But from a person who's got a day job, they haven't suddenly got a 25-hour day. It's about that exception piece to say, look, you're trying to achieve X. In order for you to achieve X, we could actually have you considered. And I think that's where, I guess, from a lot of your perspective as well, is quite a lot of your role talking, like listening, understanding.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a key part, and sales as a profession, no matter what services or solution you're selling, is, for me, it's about really trying to understand the customer's issues and goals, and then applying that to the services and solution you've got. Right. So, I think that's the most important step, and understanding everyone in that journey. You know, you can speak to one person in a business that's got the goals and objectives,
Yeah.
but actually as a business that's got 3 or 4 of the things that you need to understand, and it's pairing all that together, making sure that you come out the other end. So, you know, I talked about the example there. You know, there's an EV transition role at this utility company.
Yeah.
And again, so it wasn't just vehicle procurement that come in there, it's charging infrastructure. How do we reimburse the people that can charge at home? How do we make sure that we've got the right chargers at certain depots and their availability, and then how can you book that, and how can you make sure it's available when Adam turns up and wants to charge? And
Yeah.
so there's all of those elements in there, and I think, and it's the same with the same business there with their service, maintenance and repair. They were reliant on, when the regular check happened, discovering any other issues or the driver reporting the issue.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's a challenging bit there, because you could have a small problem that's going on in the vehicle now, so there's a fault that's just happening.
Yeah.
But if you drive on that fault over time, chances are it's going to lead to other issues in the vehicle as well. So now if we look at what they're doing, so the service maintenance repair team, they're looking at just that data, nothing else, not interested in location data. But they get the early insight. Now they're saying, Aidan, can you bring your vehicle in next Tuesday, because we need to do X to it. When you bring that vehicle in, the fleet team haven't scheduled you working for the 8 o'clock start or whatever the time is.
Yeah.
If they need the vehicle for a day, they've got another vehicle for you that you can take. So again, you're going out, you complete your jobs. And if you think about all those elements, you've got a fleet operation that's got a number of jobs that need to get completed. Then you've also got the driver who wants to go out and do his job. You've got the maintenance team that want to manage their workflow at the workshops and make sure they've got the right parts in to service that part and service that vehicle. So all of these things, all of that is data, all of that is insights for the individuals. And I think that for me is where, if you look at just that example in that company alone, it's lots of different use cases for different divisions of that business.
Yeah.
And that for me is the challenge there. It's being that consultant to say, right, I understand your issues, I understand the goals that you've got, let's work on a solution that works for all the individuals in your team.
I agree, and like the stats and all that kind of stuff, if you look at it, all matches. B2B, you want a B2C experience now, and B2B, that's what all the stats
Correct,
say.
yeah.
People want to be more informed. They don't want to be, I can't think of a different term, but the idiot in the room.
Yeah.
So when they're having a conversation, they want to, one, be listened and heard what they're actually saying, but also they do so much more research before they reach out.
Yes.
So it's a different playing field, I guess, from when you started as well.
Yeah.
And that development of stuff, and you talked about it. Obviously, I always know the old adage: if you can't manage what you don't measure.
Yes.
Which is a play, I guess, on kind of what Geotab
Managed by measurement. Yeah.
Managed by measurement. And it is really interesting because it's got to be quite daunting, the levels of data. I was talking to someone about data lakes, and then it was lake houses on the data lakes, and it was all like, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But ultimately it does go back to that fact of you have to understand the person to be able to understand the message or the question they're actually asking.
Yes.
So you can find the true answer. And that may differ by person, but by business they'll probably have an even higher arching question that ultimately these will all feed in to answer, if you like, because the company you're talking about, the revenue generators, right? The vans are a means to an end. It's the person driving it, and the kit they're carrying is what helps support their customers. So they need to maximize that from a business perspective. But the SMR goes, well, I need to minimize downtime, which means we need to do proactive maintenance. And ultimately, we're saying exactly the same thing, but in our own way that we all understand is we need to make sure we can service our clients.
Absolutely. And I think even from your perspective, we was talking about this last week, and with people used to come to a leasing rental company or an FMC and say, right, I want a vehicle, and they give you a spec and you'd work on that. And I think we're seeing more and more now that, and then they do a procurement exercise for telematics and then for other things they needed as a business.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more now is that those companies are looking for that consultative sales approach. So they come to a Holman and say, right, I want a vehicle, but I want telematics. I want this solution. I want this sort of racking in the vans, the lights on. So they're looking for that whole solution from you. And I think that for me, when it comes to the partnership and working in that way, it's everyone's got to bring their own kind of level of expertise to that table. And I think that, going back to one of your questions earlier on, at Geotab, we've got just over 2,300 employees globally. Yes, we've got a small sales team because we don't sell direct to the end user. We sell through value partners.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the people in our business are engineers of some form. So solution engineers, EV experts, truck, cold chain, data scientists, all of these people that are there that truly understand that role they're doing. And so I guess for your customers that come in and say, here's the 5 challenges that I'm looking to solve, it's been able to bring in the right experts to come in and say, right, I know all about that. Let's sit down, let's go through, let's truly understand what it is you want to deliver.
Yeah.
And that for me is the difference between, I guess, looking where I was in terms of the black box and, you know, doing the same, dare I say it, race to the bottom, to what we're doing now is we're giving actionable insights from the data that solves a whole load more than just a dot on a map. And I use that example with that same company, but just to put that in perspective, a vehicle off the road for unplanned maintenance, I've got one end customer that says it's about £700 a day for them when they total up all their costings. But that utility company, it was over £2,300.
Wow, right, yeah.
Because they, of course, if they miss a job, they incur fines. And it's all the domino effects, not just getting a new vehicle for the person out on the road, the missed jobs, the time as well, because that maintenance garage can only handle so many jobs per day. But all of a sudden, if you've got 5 vehicles that you haven't planned for that turn up, you have to prioritise those. So it's all of those domino effects that come in. And I think that's a true consultative sale on that, is really understanding, right, what is it that's causing you pain?
Yeah.
What is it that you're trying to achieve, and how can we work together between the FMC, the end customer, the connected vehicle experts? How can we bring all that together and go on a journey together? And that's how I feel we work at Geotab.
And I think it's a great way, and it's a great kind of piece. You talked about how, like, there's so many key individuals within Geotab. Mm-hmm. And as Holman, Mindy Holman, we did a podcast with her, and she talks about, we may be in the automotive business, but actually we're in the people business, because we sell a service, so we have to understand it. And to have a partner that is aligned so closely with that, we have to truly understand that end customer's need and want, and how we can help solve them. That is absolutely amazing. It kind of leads directly into what our tagline is, which is driving what's right.
Yeah.
So I guess there's no better time to ask the question, which is driving what's right is our tagline. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, as you can expect.
Yeah.
And what we do is every person we have on the podcast, we ask them, what does it mean to them? So, Adam, from my perspective, driving what's right, what does it mean to you?
I think, again, for me personally, I think driving what's right, particularly in this industry and in sales, talking more generally, you know, sometimes you have to be able to say, no, we can't do it exactly how you want it to look, but what we can do, here's some alternatives. So that's, for me personally, again, just having that challenging conversation sometimes, that you've asked us for 10 things, we can do these 9 things, but here's a different approach, would that be okay? And kind of being open about that and transparent, and getting them to understand, actually, this other way is probably a better way of doing it.
Yeah.
So again, that driving what's right, because not just within our industry, but other industries, sometimes you can get, well, we'll sell it and then we'll figure it out after.
Yes, the answer is yes. What was the question?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And I think for us as Geotab, that's what driving what's right means. It means, right, let's make sure that when we say yes to something, we can really deliver on that. And if we can't, let's figure out how we can. But be open about that from the get-go.
Yeah. So
for me, that collectively, that's what driving what's right means.
Amazing. There is no wrong answer to that. But it's just you want to bring a bit of life to what our tagline is, because each person here has a different view of it. But ultimately, we're all driving in the same direction. Sorry for the pun. My last question, and you will hopefully have seen, we've got the bookcase in the middle, and every guest that we have on, they're asked to bring something in, and we have asked you, obviously, so we're teeing you up perfectly for it. And what we actually do is bring something in and just explain what it is, and then it will live on the bookcase forevermore as a memento of this episode.
Oh, perfect.
So over to you, Adam.
Right, well, I thought long and hard about it over the weekend, and I'm sure my children will not forgive me for not bringing a picture of them. But so this on here is a Guinness World Record certificate of mine.
Very cool.
I say mine. There's layers to this. So back in May 2018, myself and lots of other men took to the field to play rugby union.
Cool.
To try and set the world record for the longest ever game of rugby union. So I was lucky enough to represent Scottish Little Soldiers in the team I played for. And we played against the Firefighters charity as well. So
Amazing.
Luckily we did it. 29 hours and 15 minutes.
Sounds horrendous.
You learn a lot about yourself during that process.
Yeah.
But also, actually, I think it probably, with my sporting background and coming back onto the topic about business, there was lots of people that contributed to this. I played a part, of course, because I went through that journey, but there was 30 other people on the field at any one time. We had physios, we had support staff, we had people feeding us and
amazing,
make sure we had water and stuff like
Yeah.
that. People recording, because that was the other challenge. You have to document it.
Right.
So there was a challenge previously, I believe, where the cameras failed, and so they played a game and they say they broke the record, but they didn't have the evidence. So, and of course the supporters, I think that people come down to watch. We played.
Help you through, I guess.
Oh, massively. We kicked off on the Friday morning.
Yeah.
And so we played through to Sunday early afternoon. Through the night, that was the hardest part, actually. Through the night, so at 10 o'clock we played at Worcester Warriors.
Yeah.
At their stadium, so they supported us there. And at 10 o'clock the tannoy had to go off. The music had to stop.
Oh no!
The people in the stands had gone home to go and have a sleep.
Yeah,
and of course, you're playing through that, and then it started to drizzle, and it's horrendous. But then equally, the sun started to come. That was actually a lot of the guys that I obviously we're friends. We meet up every now and then, and we talk about various bits, and we still play for the charities. When the sun was coming up, it gave us that extra boost.
Yeah.
And then about 2-3 hours later, we were regretting it because it was actually a really hot day. So the final 5 hours of that 29 hours was blistering sunshine, which is the last thing you need. After you've had sleep deprivation, your body's just completely gone. Yeah, for me, I think it's something I'm personally proud of, but I'm also proud of everyone that helped me achieve that with them. I think it was that journey of the collective. A funny story from it. We all, you think you finish, I'm gonna have a beer, gonna celebrate and everything else. We had a quick beer on the pitch, which was good. Went into the changing room, had a bit of a chat through there, and then was like, right, we'll go back to the hotel, we'll get showered, we'll get changed, we'll meet. There was this pub nearby we was gonna meet
For a glass of water.
Yeah, and most of us fell asleep.
Oh really?
Yeah. So I woke up. It's about 3 or 4 in the morning. And I'm not ashamed to say I couldn't sit up. I couldn't. So luckily my partner was there and she helped me into the bathroom. Because I had cramp in all areas that you just never have thought. So lifting my legs out and stuff. So yeah, really, really good experience, particularly because we were supporting those 2 charities as well. One of the bits that personally got me through, and I know a lot of the other guys, is, and I'm sure they did it on purpose. Some of the guys that set it up was, we had a few of the children from Scottish Little Soldiers that come in beforehand.
Amazing.
To kind of thank us in advance and going through. And similarly, the Firefighters charity had something similar. And then obviously when you're in the change room, you're getting ready. A guy called Dominic from the Scottish Little Soldier side, he used that and said, look, there's going to be time when you hit that barrier, you hit that pain, you hit that wall. Just think about what you've just heard and how that money's going to help. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm personally proud of.
It's amazing. It's those sorts of things are such a challenge, and they feel horrible at the time.
Yeah.
But it's that post. Would you change it? No. Because that other side of that pain is like, you've done something. 1, that's pushed your own boundaries.
Yes.
2, is so many people have all had to come together and collectively support it, because it wouldn't have worked if you'd just been there on the pitch. It wouldn't have worked, right? Same as. And that's the great bit, and we talked about it, and it's kind of, people are the difference. I think we've got some exceptional people in this world, if you like, and it's great that there's people that will fight to do things like that and support charities, and it's amazing. But the whole message around you can't do stuff on its own is not one that's it's definitely felt by me and a lot of others. So thank you for bringing it in.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much.
Perfect.